President. Thank you. Thank you, Council, for allowing me into your chamber. I missed it, honestly. Today we have a historic opportunity. We're going to have a little bit of a look at what the financial picture is within the city of Pittsburgh, and it's vastly different than what we've been told. And in fact, sort of this is the way that we're going to try to work through things, what I consider it is a Pittsburgh way. You know, back 10 years ago, almost 10 years ago to the date, I sat right there, and I had to take the most difficult vote of my life. A vote that basically came down to, should we continue to operate under the status quo and basically see this city at the verge of bankruptcy and potentially in bankruptcy, or do we start to make the structural changes that were needed to be able to understand that this isn't the city that it was 50 years ago, but it has the potential to be a fantastic city in the next 50 years. And by a 5-4 vote, that vote passed, and we started to put ourselves on the road to recovery. Now, over the past decade, there have been ups and downs with this situation. There have been certainly times when we have looked at the problems that we faced, and we looked at it through the lens of politics instead of looking at it through the lens of the reality of the issues before us. And again, I say this is the Pittsburgh way of dealing with things. We address things head on. We don't hide things under the carpet. We address them under light and address them in a way that allows the community to have a voice. And that's what we need to do for these next 5 years. Because we have the opportunity in these next 5 years not to vote on a recovery plan, but to vote on a plan that can bring financial stability back to this city. So let's begin. For the past several months, since Governor Corbett has given us the permission to stay under Act 47 through the Department of Community and Economic Development, we've been working with both the Act 47 team and the ICA team, and really have been focusing in on where we are financially. Where are the numbers? What are the revenue streams that are coming in? What are our expenses that are expected to be? And then taking it in a much more holistic look. We have issues that are before us that we have never been able to address, issues before us that we've basically pushed aside, whether it's our pension obligations or our capital needs. And you hear it from the community on a daily basis. How many calls do you get a day about the condition of the street where people live, the roads, and when is my street going to be paved? And I can tell you what the answer is. Under the present situation, never. Because we don't have enough money in our capital budget to take care of the assets that we control. Our pension obligation is going to go back under the situation where the state may be considering taking it over again, because we're not investing what we need to invest in order to be able to sufficiently manage it. Right now, what we're facing and looking at is, for the next year's budget, a structural deficit, not a one-time deficit, but a structural deficit of $20 million. That's going to go up to $32 million by the year of 2018. Which means we either have to find ways to raise revenue of $20 million or cut expenses by $20 million every year for the next 5 years. And by the way, that still won't be enough, because we'll still be facing an additional deficit of $32 million by 2018. And by the way, that's still not enough, because we'll never have done anything to fix our pension obligation, and those pension funds will dry up, and we'll never be able to pave the streets or fix the rec centers, or take care of our assets, because we don't have an adequate capital budget. Annually, what our shortfall will be is around $60 million that we have to put in to be able to do all three, which means we have to restructure our entire budget, how we spend money, how we receive money, and be able to find a way to get a new $60 million structural budget out of it. Pension and benefit costs are growing. The sources: the unfunded mandate passed by the pension board at the end of last year, new obligations on a pension fund that never came up with a source of revenue to pay for them, that for the next years out, we're going to have to find a way to either cut services or raise taxes to be able to address. Increasing healthcare costs, and this is something that goes across the board whether you work in government or private industry, and those are the issues that we have to be able also to look at. We already have some of the highest cost per worker within government in Allegheny County, and some of the highest co-pays as well. We're going to have to find new creative ways in order to be able to address that. Increasing MMO payments and revised actual projections. Real estate tax was slashed back in 2010. It was slashed too far. What that's done is created an additional hole structurally in our budget that we also have to be able to address. Our real estate taxes should be increasing every year. The price of properties are going up, the number of homes being sold, the number of people moving in. But in our budget, our revenues are going down. And this is our major source of revenue. This is the source of revenue that funds almost 25% of all the operations of the city of Pittsburgh. Capital needs far outpace the funding. We are on a path, and we have been on a path to spend around $40 million per year in our capital budget. Yet our needs, the ability to pave our streets, to take care of our playgrounds, the ability to deal with blight and vacant lots and abandoned homes, and investing in neighborhoods that haven't seen investment. To do all of this, we should be spending close to $90 million a year for a prolonged period beyond 5 years. There's a reason that our streets are falling apart, and it's not because of last year's winter. It's because we've ignored the problem for a decade of putting together a management plan to be able to take care of them over the long term. And here's the news, folks, and it's not going to be easy. They're not going to be fixed in a year. They're not going to be fixed in 2 years because we didn't get into this problem in 1 year or 2 years. It's going to take a prolonged approach and a capital budget that basically puts together the funds that are needed in order to be able to get to where we need to get to with the assets we own. The $60 million shortfall basically comes down to those three things. The capital funding that hasn't been addressed, the pension obligations that we owe that we aren't paying, and a structural deficit that's been created through decisions that have been made over the past several years. And together, those three factors amount to $60 million of money that we don't have, that we have got to be able to come up with to be able to put this city in a stronger financial situation. In late May, Act 47 will be presenting their plan to this city council. Tonight there will be a first public hearing and a public meeting for people to address any issue that they wish to address. There's no conditions on the issues to be brought up. Any ideas are welcome. The plan is still fluid in allowing ideas and different concepts and different solutions to be a part of it. City Council will hold the hearings on the details of the plan throughout May and June. State law requires that we must have an approved plan by June 30th. The new plan will become our roadmap to a stronger city. And here's the honest part of it. It's not going to be easy. And it wasn't easy 10 years ago either. But this is what is absolutely critical for Pittsburgh. You know, I'm 49 years old. I remember very well when the mills closed. I remember watching my friends that I went to high school with in 1979 not being there in 1983 for graduation because their dads lost their jobs. Chartiers Valley, our dads worked, our mom stayed at home and worked at home. But I can tell you this, that nobody had a solution for this city. There was no plan coming out of Washington, D.C. to say, here's your bailout plan. There was no plan coming out of Harrisburg to say, here's how Pittsburgh's economic development will come back. Pittsburgh did what Pittsburgh knows how to do. It brushed itself off, it reinvented itself, and that's where we are today. The last part of Pittsburgh coming back is this city government. And this city government has to learn that we have to reinvent ourselves and to become what Pittsburgh's future will be and make sure that we do so in a way that isn't reliant upon others to solve our problems for us. That's not Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's about self-responsibility. It's about addressing issues head on. It's about showing daylight on the problems that are there and then finding real solutions to solve them. It's about working together in a common good instead of dividing ourselves apart in ways that are more for political gain. This is the situation that we're facing, and we owe it to our citizens to be responsible in the way that we deal with it. We've got the next 2 months to solve the problems of the last 50 years. We've got the next 2 months to create a city that will be that city for the next 50 years. We have the next 2 months to make sure that Pittsburgh's financial situation is in a place where it helps to make all these other wonderful things happen in this city. It's not going to be easy, folks, but we'll work through it together. Thank you.